Call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson, Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Allen, Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. The next item, the board clerk will lead us in a moment of silence.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and the pledge will be led by Monique Mossop, senior at Broken Arrow High School.
Please stand and join me for our country's Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Hi, I'm Monique Mossop. I'm currently a senior at Broken Arrow High School. Over the past few years, I've been involved in FCA, FCCLA, STUCO, NHS, Student Council, and then last year senior board and this year, or last year junior board, excuse me, and this year senior board. I've also had the pleasure of playing volleyball for 5 years, and it being a fall sport, in the summertime we had June open gyms, and then it was November and we were all done, and then it was December and now I never see my teammates again. So that taught me that some things in life that you have them for a long time and you really need to cherish them, because one day you wake up and it's gone and the next chapter in life has began. So a couple of my favorite memories from this year have been filming our lip dub. Was absolutely incredible. The energy on the campus was it was outstanding, and in that gym it was so hot, but it was so much fun. And I think people all across the nation felt it because we got over 1 million views, which was incredible. And then our gym night this year was even better than last year. Did anyone go watch it? Gym night? Okay. I bet you enjoyed it. The rest of you definitely need to check it out, because kids at BA can dance. They're really talented. And we work hard on it, so come out and support those kids next year. But and then one last thing was our student section has been better and better every year, ever since I think the class of 2012. They created the jungle, and they reinstituted BA Spirit and the whole BA Till I Die concept, and it's just gotten better and better every year. And this year we had the huge poster that said this is, or we are the jungle. And was anyone at that football game where they busted through it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another one of my absolute all-time favorite memories and stuff like that. It's made my high school experience outstanding, and I don't know about you, but I'll always be BA till I die.
Like that. I'm going to have to steal that phrase, just letting you know. That's cool. Tell by the smile.
Prior to the formal adoption of the agenda, I need to call one item to the board's attention. Item number 28, just that there needs to be an amendment on the dollar amount. It should read $1,350. Outside of that, the content does not change, just making that amendment to that particular language. So we should be able, unless there are other items that you bring forward, should be able to move forward with the formal adoption of the agenda with that change.
Make a motion to accept with noted changes.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the general consent agenda items. Actually, I moved ahead, didn't I? No, we're not doing the general consent, we're doing the formal adoption. I apologize. Okay. We have a motion and second to formally adopt the agenda with the amended item to read, item number 28 to read $1,350. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item on the agenda are the minutes of February 15th, 2016, regular meeting minutes. I would certainly entertain any questions or comments. If there are none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the February 15th, 2016 regular meeting minutes. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item are the February 18th, 2016 special board meeting minutes. Any questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the February 18th, 2016 special board meeting minutes. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item under Summary of Awards and Achievements, Miss Amanda Summers.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, and Dr. Mendenhall. We were going to have a guest speaker tonight. I will just introduce him in absentia and tell you a little bit about the grant process that he was going to mention. Kamara Washington serves as the Grants Committee President for the board, for the foundation. And this year they had about 144 applications, and the Grants Committee for the foundation met for about 4 hours one evening and read over all those. They've approved 63 teacher grants for a total of $37,369.95. And so we just ask that you approve those grants to those teachers.
That's cool.
Okay, if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the 2016 Classroom Teacher Grant Awards by Broken Arrow Public School Foundation and presented by Mr. Kamara Washington in the amount of $37,369.95 for 63 teacher grants. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item under comments from the publics, we do not have any. So at this point in time, we'll move to the reports to the board. Mr. Bob Tolomeo.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. We are going to give you a short update. So we currently are in programming for these 4 schools: Sequoia Middle School, the new elementary school 15, high school edition, and Kirkland Activity Complex. I am proud to say, as of today, we are soliciting for bids for Sequoia Middle School. So we'll wait those 21 days, receive bids, and take those to the April board meeting. This is a rendering, just a couple updated renderings. This is what the front entrance, front door of Sequoia will look like. We have our existing front entrance over there, and then the gymnasium over here, and then that right there is going to be the media center. The old cafeteria will be remodeled into the media center. Here's kind of a rendering of what that would look like. In the back, we're adding a cafeteria and a tornado safe room will be the visual and performing arts areas. The new elementary school 15, it's located on 209th, just north of 71st Street. This first picture is what the front entrance will look like. Again, kind of making the front entrance of the school a predominant feature. The media center will be moved up front. A quick floor plan of that. We stuck to the pod concept. We went through programming, and one of their comments was every grade needs a pod, so we did 6 pods rather than 5 in this school. This is the lobby area and the hallways. These things hanging from the roof are actually, we call them pedals, and they serve a couple of purposes. One is wayfinding, the other is acoustical. So that should help with a lot of the noise. And hey, I'm in the red pod. I follow the red pedals to the red pod. This is the media center. Lots of color, nice windows, nice natural light. Out at the high school, we're still programming that. We're still in real early conceptual phase of that, so we hope to have something maybe at the next board meeting to show you guys on that project. Kirkland, this site is really complicated with all the existing utilities and locating all of them. So we're a little bit further behind than where we'd like to be, but we'll get back on track once we figure out where everything is. We've ordered the survey and located a lot of those lines already. And then, as always, it's a great day to be a Tiger.
Mr. Tolomeo, could you kind of just briefly talk about the timelines associated to the new elementary and Sequoia Middle School?
Okay. Sequoia Middle School, we're out to bid for. We'll receive bids towards the end of March. We'll take them to the April board meeting, and we will start construction this summer, so early June. The new elementary school, we're about a week behind, so we'll kind of issue them out to bid sometime next week or the following week after that. Take them to the April board meeting and start construction in May. It'll take 14 months to complete both schools, or one school year, and we'll open both of them in August of 2018. Is that 2017?
Talk a little bit about the safe rooms as well.
Tornado safe room is a legal definition that provides near absolute protection from a tornado. It's rated for 250-mile-an-hour wind, and it's designed to FEMA standards. So that's where it'll be big enough, large enough at both schools to house everybody in the school. So at Sequoia Middle School, their student population, their max student population will be about 900, about 60 staff members, so we've rated it for 1,000.
Does the public get to use those?
No. It's for our students and our staff while they're in school. It opens up our doors for a lot of different liabilities if we open it up to the public. Like if we're in school and we take shelter, we can't turn someone away if we're opened up to the public.
Kind of a neat feature that we've also looked at is at Sequoia, there's a somewhat of a, could you talk about that at the front of the building? There'll be either a statue or something of that nature at Sequoia.
Similar to what we did at Childers, we kind of did a memorial of Childers. Sequoia really doesn't have any place inside to do that. So we've done like a Sequoia Plaza, and I'll go back. And kind of right there in that area, we're going to do a kind of a commemorative area for him. And we've contacted a local artist with the help of Mr. Fry, and we're working through that process now.
Mr. Tolomeo, one of the things that you've really done a very good job in communicating through the subcommittee process about the start date and the end date. From our public's perspective, though, they might not be, as this construction begins, they might not have an idea about how long it might take. So the completion date for that, we're actually going to be using that facility. Can you talk a little bit about that so that they're aware of how we're going to administer the facility and the construction at the same time?
We've created a sequencing plan for Sequoia, and we're renovating about every square inch that we haven't already touched in the 2009 bond issue, in this bond issue, with either paint and flooring and all those things. And a lot of that will be done this summer. So we'll move out the teachers this summer. We'll get in there, remodel some of the existing spaces. Then they'll move back in August. And then we'll take occupancy of the cafeteria and the Fine Arts Edition in March. And then we'll move the existing cafeteria and Fine Arts people over into their spaces over spring break. And then we'll start remodeling all those spaces. So those will all be done from March to August of 2017. And then we'll take occupancy of those along with some science labs and some art rooms August of 2017. So it's a lot of moving pieces that are going to be in play on this. Like every smart board has to come down, all the ceilings have to come down. We're taking fire suppression through that whole building, and we're completely bringing it up to 2015 building codes.
It's going to be really nice when it's completed, and I know those people that are a part of the Sequoia history, and certainly those that are using the facility are going to be much appreciative of the changes that come about into that facility. So thank you for that information. Are there any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the general consent items 11 through 39.
Number 10.
Excuse me?
Number 10.
Oh, did I skip one? Dang, I do that sometimes. I
How can you
apologize.
forget?
Sometimes I do that. I just kind of look over something. So
Mr. Fry.
we're on item number 10, and it is Mr. Mark Fry. Sorry, Mr. Fry.
It's okay. I don't know how you can miss me with my hair.
You have lots of hair.
I do. Oh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we want to share with you some exciting changes that you'll see take place with the Performing Arts Center Foundation, along with the Arts and Humanities Council of Broken Arrow. But before we get there, I just want to take a quick look at how we have arrived to this evening. And to remind all of us, in 2009, the PAC opened, and it's an incredible facility, and it's mainly for our students, and we'll look at numbers in a little bit that shows that the bulk of what we do here are for the students of Broken Arrow. But part of what the community wanted was more of a professional series, a way to bring acts to downtown Broken Arrow. School districts can't be in the entertainment business in any way, shape, or form. You were both very entertaining, all four of you really, but you can't be in the entertainment business. And so the PAC Foundation was started in 2009, and we have several of our board members here tonight who have been with us from the very beginning. Heather Bryson is back there, Melinda Klontz, Kelly Rash, and Linda Wingo. And they have put in countless hours. They've invested their company's money into what we are doing here at the Broken Arrow Performing Arts Center. And as of Saturday night, we have had ticket buyers from 36 different states. We've had foreign country ticket buyers from Canada, Australia, Mexico, and the United Kingdom. Even this past Saturday night, our incredible police force had to wake a guy up who fell asleep in the car on Friday night. He had driven from Florida to see Bernadette Peters, and I guess he forgot to get a hotel room. But we helped him, and he came all the way from Florida to see Bernadette Peters right here in the Rose District. The artists and the acts that have come across our stage collectively have won 46 Tony Awards, 72 Grammys, 146 Dove Awards, 9 Emmys, and a Golden Globe, and there's a lot more to come for next year. And all of that's incredible, and it's been done because of the collaboration and communication of so many people. But I really believe the reason we have seen the success that we have seen, and this is something that Dr. Mendenhall talks to his leadership about, from the beginning, my staff, the PAC Foundation Board, we were never about what we were doing. We were always about the why. We always wanted to make sure that whatever we did here had some sort of impact on our kids and on our community. And so briefly, we're just going to look a little bit at the educational outreach that has taken place, that will continue to take place. And it's just good to remind all of us. But everything that we bring in, we try to have an educational give back. And a lot of our drama and choir students have had incredible Q&A sessions and talk back with Broadway shows. Peter and the Starcatcher, Blast, Shrek, In the Heights, Bring It On. They get to ask questions about what it's like to be a professional entertainer, and it's not as glamorous as people think. I can promise you that. We've had also great things like Wynton Marsalis and the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. They did a workshop and a master class with our musicians, and they got to learn from the best jazz players in the world. We've also had a great little thing called Still on the Hill. It's a folk group, and they made their own instruments, and we took them to Rhodes Elementary, and the kids got to learn about different types of stringed instruments and some really unique looking instruments. We've done tap classes with tap dogs. We've done master classes with a chorus line, and this picture is Kevin Spencer. He's an illusionist, and Kevin actually spent a week here in Broken Arrow, and his whole outreach is with kids who have special needs and who are on the autism scale. And he really used the week here in Broken Arrow to launch an incredible program called Healing of Magic, and this has gone global, and it really was launched right here in Broken Arrow. And so, again, I want to remind everyone that what we do here really has so much more to do than just the 2 hours that we have, 1,500 people in the space. But it's always about how can we impact kids, how can we enrich the community. And our tagline is bringing the world to Broken Arrow, and we've certainly done that, but we've also given our kids opportunities to go from here. And you're looking at a picture of our kids a couple of years ago when they were at Carnegie Hall. And of course that took a village and Dwayne Thompson to get us there and to get us back. But the exciting part, and what a lot of people probably don't remember, is that the PAC Foundation, even though we were very much in our infancy and just struggling to get through the season with our heads above the water, we were able to donate $35,000 to the students so that they could take that trip and perform in Carnegie Hall with Kristen Chenoweth. And it was just a great trip, even though we lost a truck on the way. Also, the PAC, I want to remind you that we are here for the community. We host regularly police graduation, fire graduation. We hosted a Community Veterans Day program. We host all the great high school musicals and plays. We've also hosted Walgreens and the OSU Medical Center and Leadership Broken Arrow, University of Phoenix, the Masonic Lodge, Caldwell Banker, on and on of what this center is supposed to be, and that is really a hub for our community and for creativity. And it's certainly had an impact on the Rose District that we've talked about, that Ms. Kelly and Dr. Mendenhall, Ms. Bergwall, and others are so involved in, and it really has become the anchor for what has happened along Main Street. On the international level, it's been pretty amazing, the pub that Broken Arrow has received. We've been featured in the New York Times, BroadwayWorld.com, Playbill, the Washington Post, Inside Arts Magazine, Good Morning America, The View, Conan O'Brien, as well as all the local. And every time that happens, they're talking about Broken Arrow as a whole. They're talking about the facility, the school district, and the community. And it's just really been an incredible thing to see that take place and to grow and grow and grow. And of course, a lot of that helps because of a great partnership with Kristen Chenoweth that was started back in 2012. Dr. Mendenhall made the choice, and I was very happy that the choice was made to name the theater after Kristen Chenoweth. And it's been an incredible partnership, one that continues to grow to this day. She has given our kids opportunities to perform for nationally televised TV specials. We started our first Kristen Chenoweth Broadway boot camp last summer, impacting kids. That's a picture on the screen of Maddie Riggin, who's a current senior at Broken Arrow High School. She's starring in Peter Pan. And because of her connections and work through the Kristen Chenoweth Boot Camp, Maddie is going to get to go to Oklahoma City University and pursue her dream. And in 2 weeks, she'll get to perform a duet with Kristen Chenoweth and the Oklahoma City Philharmonic for 2 sold-out shows. And those are the things that make what we do special. And there's even a good picture, Dr. Mendenhall, Miss Kelly. You guys look good. But it really, all of this, in my opinion, has just been good for Broken Arrow. It's been good for our kids and our community. But I also want us to remember that the biggest responsibility and the lion's share of fiscal responsibility has always been and definitely is Broken Arrow Public Schools. Broken Arrow Public Schools is responsible for the facility and the upkeeps. Broken Arrow Public Schools pays for all of the PAC staff's salaries. And it has taken an incredible amount of trust. It's taken an incredible amount of really just letting my staff and the PAC Foundation Board be able to dream and try to make this something that I can honestly say that no other school district in these parts, no one can say that they're doing what we're doing as far as impacting students with a connection to the professional performance world. So all of that sounds great, and it's, you know, it's like if it's not broke, why fix it? But I do believe that part of what my job is here is to always look at what we're doing to see if we can do it better, to see if we can make it even a bigger win-win for the school district, for the community, and for our kids. When we started in 2009, the other big arts organization in town was the Broken Arrow Arts and Humanities Council. But at that time, there really wasn't going to be a partnership. It just wasn't there yet. So for the last 7 years, I've worked very hard on building those relationships to the point now where I'm the president of both organizations. And as we looked at what those organizations do, as we looked at really long-term sustainability for what has been created with the PAC Spotlight Series and the Up Close Series, I felt, and Dr. Mendenhall and I had conversations, that the right thing to do, the best thing to do for everyone, for the school district and for what has been created through the PAC Foundation, is to merge these two groups together. And so what I'm here to tell you tonight is that the PAC Foundation has voted to dissolve in June of this year. The board of directors that have been with me from day one, they are merging to form a bigger, stronger board with the Arts and Humanities Council under a new name, and that new name is Arts OK, the Regional Arts Alliance of Broken Arrow. And I think that you look at what Tulsa has done with their Arts Alliance, I think it gives Broken Arrow a stronger voice in arts advocacy at the local, state, and national level. I think it gives the arts even a stronger base and foundation in which to seek funding and grant requests. And it also gives that really, really clean line that we need as far as, is this a school production? Is this a, what is this? And you know, there are still people who think this is a city built building. There are people that may think that the PAC Foundation runs this building. But what this will do for Broken Arrow Public Schools, it's going to create a stronger, more consistent revenue stream. And you'll see on there the partnership and how this is going to work. A lot of it won't change as far as what the public sees and what the public does. But the employees of the PAC are school district employees. The operating costs of the facility are covered by the school district, including upgrades to the facility. And here's the key on that line is that the PAC employees work all events, whether they're the school district event, a community event, or a rental event. But here's where the shift will happen. Arts OK will be a renter. Up until this point, because of the PAC Foundation, you know, starting with $0 and really struggling to just maintain and get out of the starting gate, the PAC Foundation was not paying rent. What the school district was receiving in revenue was a $2 facility fee. But early in those years, we could only charge that facility fee if people walked up physically to this box office and bought the ticket. So we were losing out on quite a bit of revenue in that regard because a lot of people buy online, buy over the phone. Over the course of the last 6 months or so, I've been able to negotiate with our third-party ticketing system, and now we're going to be able to charge that $2 facility fee on all tickets, no matter how they purchase them. And we also took a big look at what other facilities are charging in terms of facility fee. And with the help of the facilities committee through the school district, we are going to raise that facility fee to $4 on every ticket sold. In addition to that, the consistent part will be the rental rate. And working through the facilities committee, we will agree upon a bulk rental rate where Arts OK can rent the facility for a minimum of 10 events and a maximum of 20 events at an agreed upon rate, and all that will come back to the school district. And to put it in numbers, this year probably, depending on how the last two shows go, Broken Arrow Public Schools will make somewhere between $13,000 and $15,000 in ticket fees. Next year, under this new arrangement, I'm projecting somewhere between $40,000 to $50,000 in revenue back to the school district for the same amount of shows. But it's just in my opinion, it's better for everyone all the way around. And I do want to leave you with this. People ask, we get phone calls because of what we do here. And I tell them all the time that the only way this is going to continue to work is you have to have a singular vision. And I don't mean the PAC vision, but I mean all the leaders, school, chamber, city, whoever's leading the PAC, they have to remember that what this facility is supposed to be is multifaceted. It cannot be about just bringing in pro shows. It cannot be about just letting all the dance companies and dance studios in town rent it. There's a bigger, greater picture that takes all people communicating, having the patience, and it takes the right person to lead. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about that the leadership at Arts OK, school board, Dr. Mendenhall, everyone, all of those people have to have the same goal. And the goal should be to continue to give kids opportunities, continue to enrich the community, and continue to put BA on the map. And I think that this plan will give us the long-term sustainability to do that.
Mr. Fry, I really appreciate the amount of communication that you put forward this evening. I certainly want to thank those people that have been a part of the Arts Council and anyone. Of course, I do believe we have a community leadership that wants to do the right thing, and I understand too where we've come from, and we've come a long way, and we continue to make transitions where transitions will be better, certainly for our community, but also for our school district. And I want to again thank those people that have been a part of the Arts Council. I know that there have been times probably where there have been challenges, but I think the stick-to-itiveness of those people, and certainly yourself, has been very beneficial for our school district and our community. So I want to thank you for that. And I also want to thank you for this. This is very nice, and it was good to look at. So if there are other questions or comments?
Yeah, I think what I would say is, if I would have said this would have happened 6 years ago, I would have said there is no way. I think it's taken a lot of time and energy and really thought that's gone into this, and I think we've got to kind of think about keeping the main thing, and that is the facility is about our kids and about bringing the arts to Broken Arrow, just as he has said. And so we've worked very hard to do that. I've looked far and wide. There is no public school district that does this, not one. And I can say that this is a pretty incredible endeavor. It was a pretty lofty goal for the community when they first passed a bond issue. I think they passed two to actually get this facility built. And so when I walked in the door, it was kind of interesting. They had developed a foundation and really had hired a director that they knew was going to be able to bring in the talent that we needed. So a lot of the credit, I will say, needs to go to you, Mr. Fry. You've done a great job of bringing in you've done a great job of bringing in the talent, the people. It is sustainable now, and I think it takes time and patience to make all of that happen. So not only on your part, but time and patience for everyone else. And so, yes, we've known that the $2 facility or the $2 ticket fee was like, oh my, we're spending a lot of money, and hopefully we're getting a lot out of it. And the answer to that is yes, we are. It was built for a reason, and we've done a great job. You've done a great job of making sure that that all happens. So thank you for what you've done, and I commend the community for staying patient too, because this was kind of a public-private partnership, if you will, and it's been able to work, and it works the right way. People will come and talk about this and see how this has worked into the future, and so I do appreciate your time and energy and facilitating those conversations that have had to happen to make it all happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the general consent agenda items 11 through 39. There were no other items brought to my attention, so I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the general consent agenda items 11 through 39. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item, under Superintendent Board of Education Communications, Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes. President Kelly, members of the board, as I've talked to you in the past, I've talked to you about the budget realities. Mr. Thompson and I are going to talk you through that. If I could, please, what I'd like to do is Mr. Thompson and I are going to kind of tag team this. And last time we talked a little bit about kind of where we're at in the budget. And I tell you, it has become very, very interesting. It's almost a daily situation to where it's changing so often that we're not real sure, if it's going to continue this way, or if we're going to get additional cuts, or what each day is going to bring us. But what I want to do tonight is really kind of come back to what we were doing in the last few days, in the last 2 weeks. First thing I wanted to mention is that our budget reduction process, we had really 4 main goals that we wanted to make sure that we accomplished. And that was, one, we want to keep the cuts away from the classroom. We want to maintain all student instructional programs, secure funding for employee stipends, and protect the fund balance. And I'm going to tell you, you notice that I've put down in red at the bottom is the original goals are becoming more and more difficult because things continue to occur. Mr. Thompson and I just left a meeting over in Jinx. We met with the CFOs and the superintendents in the Tulsa County area, and we had a meeting over there today, and we began to almost begin the brainstorming of what this means to our particular school districts. It's pretty consistent across the board. Everybody's doing pretty much the same things, but when you look at where we've been and the potential of the cuts, I mean, you see here in January we were told $901 million. Well, it's gone in January to February, $1.3 billion that we are down in totally across the board. So it has really changed the dynamics as you have, as we've looked at this.
The next slide just basically shows where we are today. We have adjusted down for the most recent cut that we just received the other day of 4%, so we're down to $3,004 a student, And as Dr. Mendenhall mentioned, we were at the meeting today was to talk about there's probably another 2% cut coming this fiscal year, and then what is the bottom line cut for next fiscal year in total. And so basically we were told today to project and to budget on $2,875. So if you look at the fiscal year 15 was $3,075, so we're talking about $200 per weighted ADM difference between 2015 and what we will actually see in 2017. And so what that means to us based on our student count right now is about $5.7 million reduction in cumulative reduction. So we're not talking about a small amount of money, and I think that's why Dr. Mendenhall mentioned it's getting more and more difficult, because when you're going to cut those kind of resources, it's predominantly going to be in various types of staff, and so there is going to be some changes to what we have done. But that's where we are today. Every day is a new day, and as we go through, there's things that come up that you're like, well, how did that happen? Today was a classic day of that because they approved the House approved a bill today that was to take money out of a revolving fund to make that a amount that's supposed to be able to be appropriated of $125 million, and it was actually part of the governor's plan for the 16-17 school year, or 16-17 budget. But then when they got into it and started making the changes, it can't actually take effect until 17-18. So trying to figure out why in the world are you talking about something that can't even be in effect for another year. As we went through the cuts, the other portion of the cuts that went through in January was a 3% reduction of FBA. Mysteriously, they had the resources to not do the 3% cut in FBA, even though that's what they said. So now at this point, we only have a cut of 4% of FBA, not a total of 7%. Me being the skeptic, I'll wait and see to what we actually materializes in June. But regardless of all that, the number still comes back to the 200 per weighted ADM, because what they're anticipating is going back to funding FBA and taking the remaining portion out of the state aid. So as you can see here, here's are the cuts that the State Department or the state agency has taken: 3% in January and 4% in March, and all of those things are being implemented as we speak. So what we've looked at to date is the first reduction was $1,051,000, and now with the 4%, it's estimated to be at 1.8 million. So to date would be the 2,851,000. And again, that's a cumulative. So if you're looking, it'll basically double that into next fiscal year for the total amount of the reduction. So we'll keep monitoring that. There should be some as we go through this year, some additional reductions. As I said, they're anticipating another 2%, and that's what we're operating on. Sometimes you will read in the paper that they're talking about just state aid has been reduced this much, but remember there's other line items that through the process, whether it's staff development or FBA or other line items that have been reduced above and beyond just our state allocation. So that's where you get the totals as you add all those up. But I will tell you that today's meeting was better than there was a lot of confusion, as you can imagine, at the Capitol, and so there was a group that was discussing, you have all these cuts and then there'll be another 200 per weighted ADM on top of that dollar amount, and we kept talking about that, and I'm like, there is absolutely no way that is possible. The math doesn't add. I'm just telling you as I go, this is not possible. And so today they confirmed that it is a cumulative to the total of 200 per weighted ADM.
So, Mr. Thompson, I just have a quick question, because it looks, or it seems to me, when you look at some of the other areas, superintendents, and in particular Tulsa Public Schools, estimating a 15% from this year to next year, that may be a possible for next year.
14%, right. That's
Yeah.
if you're looking at the double of what we have down there at the
Okay.
7%, the 190 would be a 14% change. And I will tell you this is that Superintendent Hoffmeister did put out a request for supplemental funding that was also supported by the governor today, which is another interesting feature, but that, so we'll see if that materializes or not. What's really pressing on them right now is without that supplemental fund, there will be a number of school districts that close this year. And and some bigger schools will close this year. Obviously, we're not one of those, but there are, what you would consider to be large schools that don't have the fund balance to withstand a potential 9% cut in their state aid. And so that's why, well, I mean, obviously the supplemental is just a request, but I think that's why we're talking about the governor supporting that for this fiscal year. And whether they would put it in this year or move it to next year, it's not really, it's still the same one-time funding. So I think what they're trying to do, if that is successful, is to help those districts that would actually not be able to finish this school year and have to go to judgment and so forth for the end of the year.
The other thing to mention, Karen, if you go right to the one before that, just real quickly, if you can go back. Can you go back to the previous slide? If you'll right click.
I'm trying.
Oh, I thought it was Karen.
No, I'm driving.
I wouldn't have asked you.
Which is sad.
There you go. Thank you. What we tried to get cleared up today was because what we're trying to do is figure out really what that cut is going to be at the end of the day. And like Dwayne said, with the $200 more per weighted student, you're looking at 14% instead of 7%. So that's kind of where we've gone. The next slide talks a little bit about kind of what we've done to this point. I know that a lot of it has not been updated. We're still working on kind of looking at the different categories and making sure that as we go line by line that we bring you some very accurate data on this. So this particular slide has not changed a whole lot. We do have more savings on fuel than what we've had. I think it was 180 the last time we met. The two additions at Arrow Point and then an administrator and support staff. You can kind of see there, though, as you add some of these together, if you're looking to make a cut of $3 to $5 million, I mean everything is going to count. So it's going to be very important for all of us to get to that stage. Now, the next slide's where it really starts digging in deep. You start kind of really thinking about, okay, what are those areas of reduction? Our employee stipends that we've been giving are $2.5 billion. We've talked about not wanting to get rid of that, but that is, it's a $2.5 million, price tag. Certified staff, we've looked at the potential of, through attrition, 35 certified staff members. That's the cost that we budget on. Certified staff, we budget around the $50,000 mark. Administrative staff, there's 8 on that. We took a percentage and said, okay, would that be something that we could do? And so we budget around $100,000 for administrative staff. And then the support staff is at 40, and we budgeted around 35,000 for support staff. Now you see that's a pretty large number, but at the end of the day, it looks like in a 2-year process we may be around $5 to $6 million that we need to cut. So these are some of the things that wanted to kind of give you some ideas of what's out there. Cost-cutting ideas. Now, I'll tell you, we are putting out a survey over the spring break, and so our staff, teachers and staff, will get an opportunity to give us some ideas. These are some just real quick ideas that have been given to us. Our cabinet and different ones have talked a little bit about these things. A 4-day work week. I'm going to tell you that the savings there is probably not as big as you might think. 4-day work week is very, very difficult to do, and it usually rests on the shoulders of a lot of our support staff. So you may be saving transportation, child nutrition, some custodial, but you're still under contract with teachers and staff, and so that's not as much savings as you might think. So we'll have some numbers on these kinds of things, but I wanted you to kind of look at those. Reduced transportation. I thought it was very interesting today. I mean, you know, we had suburban schools that are just like us talking about charging for transportation, talking about not transporting anyone within a mile and a half. I think we receive $33 a student for transporting students that are more than a mile and a half from school. So we don't receive a whole lot of funding for that in the first place. But I did think there were a lot of conversations that I've not ever heard in my 25 years in education. After school athletics and fine arts. You know, there was a lot of conversation today about do we do that? Do we push after school athletics and move our staff, our coaches, give them an extra hour of teaching and then a planned period? You know, the savings in that area is not as much as you think, because we have literally well over 1,000 student athletes and gosh, 2 or 3 times that in fine arts. So those students have to be someplace 5th and 6th hour, so you're probably not going to save quite as much as you might think. Of course, energy conservation, we can always do a better job there. There's probably some savings, but not as much as you think. Reducing staff travel. You know, I think that next year we'll have to take a look at out-of-state travel specifically, and maybe looking at freezing out-of-state travel and looking at what that looks like through our professional development funds, etc. Elimination of field trips. Of course, I don't think we take that many field trips that would save us that much, but we've put that on the list just simply because we felt like that was one of those areas that we could eliminate or greatly reduce. The next one is reduce extra duty stipends. Of course, this is a negotiated item, so we would have to go to our Teachers Association and make sure that they would be okay with this, but we actually provide extra duty stipends for coaches for our those in fine arts, and then also in the academia areas. So we do have some that are, you know, the cost to that, we would have to kind of run those. And then also the reduced professional development is the other area that we've talked about. So all in all, if you really look at it, it's going to be one of those situations that we're going to have to really think about what those items are. I think we're going to have a better idea the longer the session goes. And I always feel like when I have this conversation with you all, it's kind of, I feel wishy-washy. And the reason I do is because I can't give you a finite number. I can't tell you this is exactly what we have to do to get to this finite place. So because if they continue to cut, we continue to have to really be smart, fiscally responsible with the money that we do have, and some really hard decisions will have to be made. I do like the idea that we'll have some data to kind of share with you through the surveys. What I will do with that information is share that in a board meeting so that you'll see kind of what our staff is saying and what they're thinking, and kind of take it from there. So I'll entertain any questions that you may have. I know that Mr. Thompson and I both have, I mean, it's kind of like this is all we talk about now. You know, the fun part of being doing our jobs have kind of stopped a little bit, and all we talk about is spreadsheets and money. And I like to create programs and go out and spend time with kids. So I've spent a lot of time talking about this part, and it's part of the job, but I will tell you that it's something that we all have to do and really grapple with and make sure that we make good decisions in the long term.
Well, the frustrating part is nobody knows this better than those that work in the education profession. It really does impact morale. It does really impact our students. And we are here for our students. And, you know, the thing is, and the one thing that I want people to know more than anything is this didn't happen overnight. This isn't just about oil. This is about our state's inability to put a high priority on public education. It is the one thing in our state constitution that is required by the state of Oklahoma, yet our legislature has been, they have not done what they are required to do. And I look at this right now, and yes, these are all uncomfortable, obviously, options. There's not one of them that's a good option. Because if we were doing what we needed to do for kids, we would be looking at increasing the expenditure per student every single year. And we're not doing it. So I would just encourage each of you, if you have ideas, I know that sometimes we all do. Sometimes we can get a little frustrated when we start talking about it. I certainly can. I've had the opportunity to have conversations with our state leaders, those in the Broken Arrow community, and interestingly enough, we are talking about vouchers right now, which will have an impact over a 10-year period of $250 million additional dollars away from public schools. Now, the equalizer in this nation is public education, and it impacts the poor more than anyone else. And we can say all we want to say, but my biggest concern right now is if you have an opportunity to talk to your legislator. I can tell you the other day, every single one of our legislators said they're going to support vouchers. Every one of them. That's additional money taken away from public ed. So if you do have an opportunity to positively communicate to them, certainly I would encourage you to do that. I will be, and I'm certain the rest of us will be doing at different points in time. We'll have opportunities to communicate with our legislators. It's not enough anymore to have a conversation and someone look you in the face and go, I understand. It is cutting away, I mean, it's just ripping the guts out of public education. I know I've said a lot. I'll go ahead and rest and not say any more. If I have other questions, I certainly will ask them, but I want to give everybody the opportunity to ask questions.
Well, of course, I appreciate your passion. I have had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with our legislators as well. In fact, I spend all day tomorrow in Oklahoma City, so I'll have a chance to spend some time with them as well. But I will say you are spot on. I mean, the education savings accounts are called vouchers. It's the same thing. Very, very disappointed in our local legislators that are supporting that. And so I would encourage you, send them a note, send them an email, and let them know kind of how you feel. Because I will tell you, that's the only way they represent us. They represent our community. They represent our school district. And so I would encourage you to do that. I will definitely bring as much information as you'd like. Any recommendations for us would also be open to those.
I do have one question, Mr. Thompson. Has the state addressed whether or not we're going to recoup as the state coffers start getting rich with oil money again? Have they addressed how we will receive the monies that we've lost? Or will it be like 2008 when we lost $5 million and we haven't regained it?
Well, I have two parts to that answer. Is that next year's budget, as it was proposed, is at $40 a barrel. So we're nowhere near $40 a barrel, and so the likelihood of having a whole lot of resources into the coffers, unless something drastic happens, is kind of remote. I'm glad you brought up the education savings accounts, because obviously that is in addition to the $200 a student if that was to happen. And then the part that we don't know is there is discussions of a variety of forms of other potential revenue sources, and I don't know how much play they're actually getting, but there are things that could help along the way. But at this point, honestly, they're in a mode of just trying to get through this legislative session. They're not talking about anything into the future. But we are, as a group, having discussion that the potential could occur that we're going through not the same level of cuts, but cuts again next year at this exact same time if oil doesn't rebound to, in essence, $38 a barrel. Because that's what the budget's built on. So, but past that, they are not looking past that. And as far as I know, the only person that has put things out is Mike Mazie to help, and it's the entire package is what he's trying to do. He's not saying give me X number of dollars for education. This is how we can help with the total issue of the state deficit, and maybe it's only 100 million here or 200 million here, but it does in fact reduce the overall dollar amount. So, but there are other discussions going on, but we're never going to be privy to those until they can figure out if they have enough votes to make that happen. That was the discussion today. In order to increase revenue through, they have to have 75% vote approval, and so they're not going to propose anything that isn't going to make it. Let me just say they're not. It's going to be very limited on the individuals that will send something out there to get defeated, and so that's why there's not very much out there. But there is no plan, honestly, into the future. It is to get through this year and next year and see where we are.
And we are, even at that, looking at the governor wanting to cut taxes further to 4.85%. And that's the troubling part, is we are suffocating our state services. And I do not know, and when you think about nationally, this is a national thing. It's going on all over the country. And, we do have a responsibility, in my opinion, to the children. I mean, the difference between, them having a future. And so I want to bring that up because, again, there's a reason why we're in the position we're in. 10 years ago, if we were in the same position and we hadn't cut taxes to the point that we are now, we wouldn't be in this situation.
I think, Ms. Kelly, you said something really critical there, and that's where I think, I just want to say I appreciate the comments that you made and the passion, absolutely. And, the thing is, the deterioration of our public education, it's just constantly going on. And again, I think it's critical that we ask each and every one to, when they get the chance, to mention it to the legislators and to bring it to their attention, because Dr. Thompson or Mr. Thompson, are they making? Get mixed up here. It just irritates me a little bit, but
I'll take it.
Seriously, about tax incentives. That's a huge component that has deteriorated the funding coming into our state.
Well, there's tax credits, and there's also sales tax exemptions.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about today, and we have a list, and it's not like it's a mysterious list. There's a list of all the things that are exempt from sales tax, and one of them is items that are sold for resale. Okay, and if you look at that list, they estimate that line item alone at 1.5 billion lost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, where is the proposal to tax that particular thing? And let's have a discussion about that. And
that's what's appalling to me, is that they're not having.
Because
I
in
know you say
one
they're working to fix it now, but there has to be, in proper problem-solving decision making, you have to plan, detect, identify the problem, and plan ahead to prevent it in the future.
But as I was, to go on with that, is here's the deal: is one legislative action could generate, according to their own estimates, enough revenue to fix the shortfall. And the thing you hear over and over again, we hear it regularly, is that the people that our legislators talk to don't want to increase taxes. And I'm not arguing that that's not the people they talk to. My point is that if you look at the 1 penny sales tax, which will probably go to the vote of the people, obviously is a tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time it's polled, it is successful, 60-70% successful. So, which one is it? And I'm not, I'm not a big fan of polls, because you talk to the people you want to talk to and ask the questions you want to ask to get the answer you want. But if it goes to the vote of the people and it's successful, then did they want a tax increase or did they not? And obviously they did. So, but there's no collective effort to say, here's the number we need, let's go after these 5 items, these 6 items, these 20 items. It's just kind of a hit and miss approach, and certain individuals will propose things, and then that's that. And I think that's where we are. I don't expect us to see a whole lot of revenue sources created or expanded in order to fill the gap. I think it's all going to just be cuts, and that's it. because that only requires a simple majority.
And the unfortunate thing is it has a direct impact on class size, teacher quality, student education, and everything.
And you look at those cuts
Retention.
and you
Yes.
look at the cuts that we're,
It's
that you're
unfortunate.
potentially going to have, and you say all the things that we've tried to implement and put into place to assist students, a lot of those will have to go in some form or fashion or be lessened. And it's very, very frustrating for us. But
We're talking about building new schools. How are we gonna staff that?
when that's
That's a great question. I
the
mean,
next plan.
we're elementary 15 is, we're going to build the building, the facility with bond dollars. So that's all great. But once we open that building, it will probably cost us for staffing about $2 million. Well, a lot of people will say, well, aren't you just going to move staff over because you're going to move students over, et cetera? Well, that's the case, but you also have to hire all the ancillary services. I mean, you have custodians, you have support staff, you have a art, music, and PE teacher, you have a principal, you have child nutrition staff. So all of those things go into opening a new elementary to make sure that we have, appropriate facilities for our kids. So with all of that being said, Mr. Thompson is also planning for that to occur 17-18. That's why these cuts are so critical to us, is making sure that we plan ahead and know that we are going to open a building at that time.
That's correct.
Okay, are there other questions? Thank you. The next item on the agenda, Dr. Mendenhall.
Probably an appropriate placement of this item. We have the Oklahoma State School Boards Association has a day at the Capitol. It is Tuesday, March 29th. I'm going to encourage a lot of our central office folks to attend. It is from 9:30 to 3 p.m. On that day. We're encouraging a lot of people at that day to make appointments with legislators. There will be a registration. We'll have lunch. I believe there is at 9:30 the 5th floor balcony at the Oklahoma Capitol. We're trying to get quite a few people there for that, and be a kind of a nice deal if it was so packed not everybody could get in. The noon lunch is at the Credit Union House, and then after lunch we're encouraging those that are there to really set up meetings with legislators. I will tell you that this seems to work because I do think that going to their offices, going in and really having some ideas of what you want to talk about and meeting them one-on-one is really advantageous. So that night, the nice thing about Broken Arrow, we will have what's called we're hosting a dinner for the delegation that are legislators here in Broken Arrow. That evening we have Dr. Dunlop, Mr. Fager, and Ms. Kelly is definitely, the three of them will be there representing us and at that delegation. So kind of excited about the day. I feel like it's a great time for us to really rally our troops and maybe go in and have that conversation. So wanted to mention that tonight to the entire board, encourage them if they wanted to attend.
There are no questions. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is Ms. Michelle Birdwall.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. The first item I have for you tonight is the orchestra pit lift for this building. This is part of the last project on the 2009 bond issue. This is the one project that has kept me from saying we did all that $240 million of construction on 09 bond issue in 4 years. This one's dragging on a little bit. So we have bid the pit lift for this facility. We did that ahead of designing the building, knowing that that is a need, and the only time we can get that installed is the summertime when the PAC goes dark. So we have received those bids. We are anxiously awaiting our trust funds to fund that, and we ask for your approval tonight for to award to the low bidder, iWise Inc.
And Ms. Bergwell, I just would like clarification to make certain this is going to meet our needs.
Yes, this has been coordinated with Mr. Fry,
Okay.
and they looked at those bid specs and have bid it, and he is so anxious to get
I
it in
imagine
and
he
get it done
is.
this summer.
This
Any-
is one of the first things that they talked about with me when I first came in. I mean, this has been 6 years coming, so.
If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the bid submitted by the lowest responsible bidder, Weiss Inc., to provide an orchestra pit lift and installation at the Performing Arts Education Service Center. All bidding was conducted pursuant to the Oklahoma Competitive Bidding Act. The total cost to the district is $185,000 and will be paid from the bond funds. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item, Ms. Bergwell.
The next item I have for you tonight is the hiring of a construction manager for the Kirkland Activity Complex. This, of course, as you know, is the North Intermediate Campus, and we are looking at building the soccer portion of the Activities Complex in Phase 1 of our 2015 bond, and we are asking you tonight to approve Flintco Inc. I believe we have Russ Peavy with us in the back of the room representing Flintco. Wave, Russ, so they know who you are. Asking you to approve our CM tonight for that project.
Okay, if there are questions, certainly I would entertain them. If not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the execution of a contract between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Flintco Construction Solutions for construction management services related to the budgeting, bidding, and construction of the Kirkland Activity Complex Project Phase 1, and authorize the Chief Operating Officer to negotiate the terms of the contracts, and it will be paid from the 2015 bond funds. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
The next item is hiring an architect for our Freshman Academy project. Can you tell Bob's got some things out for bid and we're ready to start programming on the rest of Phase 1? So we would like to hire Seltzer Schaefer Architects for our Freshman Academy. They are the architects that designed the Fine Arts Edition, then with Perkins and Will, and I believe Bob Schaefer is in the back of the room there with Bob. And we would like to seek your approval tonight to have them design our addition to the Freshman Academy.
Okay. Would entertain a motion on this unless there are questions.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to award Seltzer Schaefer Architects to provide architectural services related to the design, bidding, and construction of the Broken Arrow Freshman Academy classroom expansion project, and to authorize the Chief Operating Officer to negotiate the terms of the contracts. The total cost of the district will not exceed 7%. Cost of work will be paid from the 2015 bond funds. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Our next item is land. This is the land that we spoke about in executive session, or one of the parcels in executive session in the 41st Street area. This does include a swap of our existing 10 acres and a purchase of the other 10 acres, so a total of 20 acres that we would be receiving in that area.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve a real estate sales contract for the purchase of land situated in Tulsa County, Oklahoma, and authorize the Chief Operating Officer to negotiate and close on the property within the terms previously discussed in executive session to purchase land. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes, thank you. Next item, Ms. Jean Brassfield, or,
Yeah, that's right.
okay, all right.
President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board, I am presenting a contract between ACT and Broken Arrow Public Schools for the 2015-16 school year as it relates to our state testing. This is no cost to our district. It's part of our March 29th testing date for our juniors.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the new agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and ACT providing testing services for the 2015-16 state testing program. There is no cost to the district. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes, thank you. Next item, Mr. Lance Crawley.
President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board, bring to you tonight for a first reading and a small adjustment amendment to policy 4030, attendance policy. I've been working through subcommittee with this for the last couple months, and currently we have in place when a student exceeds 9 absences, they receive a grade deduction to 59%, and the edit just adds an appeals process at my level to that, just like we would do with suspensions in a behavior arena. It goes beyond the building, and it's just for first reading tonight.
All right. Since this is a first reading, if there are any questions, certainly I would, you certainly could ask those now. If not, you could contact Mr. Crawley with additional questions. Since it's information only, unless there are questions, we'll go ahead and just move forward. There are none, so thank you. All right. Next item under Student Services, Mr. Darren Davis.
Surprised you didn't bring roses.
I'm not that thoughtful, I guess. I need a better administrative assistant, I think, to help me remember those things. We're seeking approval this evening, Dr. Mendenhall and members of the school board, for formal approval for us to travel to California for the Pasadena Tournament of Roses Parade. You can see the estimated cost per student is $2,100. That includes charter airfare to get directly to California. As a side note, I think our band parents have an excellent fundraising plan to offset the cost of that trip by nearly half that amount to alleviate that cost for our students.
All right. If there aren't any questions, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the Pride of Broken Arrow Marching Band travel to and perform in Pasadena, California at the Tournament of Roses Parade, January 2nd, 2017. The cost will be approximately $2,100 per student to be paid by the activity funds. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. McNabb.
President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board, I come in front of you tonight to recommend adopting a 3-bell start time system for the 2016-2017 school year. In the fall of 2014, the district formed an instructional time task force which was comprised of different stakeholders, including teachers, parents, and district staff. The task force was commissioned to find ways to improve transportation and operational issues without a major disruption. They put a lot of research and thought into this, and what we've come up with is a 3-tier system, the first tier being high school and freshman academy, with a starting bell of 7:45 a.m., an ending bell of 2:30 p.m. The middle tier is the middle school, with a starting bell of 8:30 a.m., an ending bell of 3:15 p.m. And the final tier, the elementary, with a starting bell of 9:10 a.m., in a final bell of 3:55 p.m.
With all the budget cut talks and everything, this is going to save us money, right?
I don't
Which-
think it, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is more geared around solving operational issues.
Right.
As far as the financial savings, it's pretty much going to be a wash.
Mr. McNabb, I would like to certainly thank you and everyone who participated on the committee process, because I know it was long in coming to get the recommendation. Certainly there's been other meetings where you've responsibly brought forward information to the board. I do believe that it's probably long awaited to move to the 3 start times, and of course we include also the pre-K centers in that as well. Mm-hmm. And but again, I know it took a lot of work to bring forward this recommendation. I do believe it's going to be best for our kids.
It will.
One of the things that I would like to mention is that the Instructional Time Task Force Committee has really been meeting on this for 2 years. I mean, we've spent a lot of time and energy. There was a survey that was sent out to the community, to families. We actually had more take the survey than actually voted in our bond issue. So we got some really great feedback, and feedback that we really didn't know how they would respond as far as when did they want the start times to occur. And so it kind of follows kind of what the community really wants. We have had, Mr. McNabb, would you explain how many kids we have waiting or on buses, and how that would probably help us just with our waiting times?
In the mornings, in the AM, because of the way the system is currently designed, we have approximately 1,600 students waiting more than 30 minutes before the bell starts, so they're dropped off more than 30 minutes before school starts. In the afternoons, we have roughly 1,800 students that are at school between 35 minutes and an hour after school is out waiting for that bus to arrive.
And then they have to ride the bus for 30 to 45 minutes as well. So
Yes.
you're talking that many students that are almost 2 hours after school's completely let out
And
getting home.
the average route time is 48 minutes, and that's on the days that everything works perfectly, we can get to those numbers, and that's approximately 5 times a year.
So I will have to compliment the team. I mean, to not have any more conversation than we're having tonight. They have worked really hard to get to this stage and have really gotten a lot of input.
And, you know, I certainly echo what you're saying, Dr. Mendenhall, because I know we've had ongoing reports from last year to this year, and certainly by having this move forward, it's not like we haven't seen the processes in place. We have, and so I certainly appreciate it. And I know there are a lot more involved, and that's why I just kind of give an overview and say anyone that's been involved on the committee or otherwise, certainly want to thank all of those that were participating in achieving this result.
You might mention too, do you have a brochure with you? Do you have a brochure up there?
I have a very rough draft they are going to put out. In fact, that's it. That's the brochure.
Okay. Will you kind of tell them what will we do with this and when will that go out?
My understanding is the brochure is going to start going out tomorrow, and we're going to target communication starting tomorrow, and then there's going to be another round of communication also on the website that's going to be towards the end of school, and then we're going to do a lot of communication during the summer to get people prepared for the upcoming school year. And that's going to be both the communication department and transportation.
Are there any other questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the new start times to begin the 2016-17 school year. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNabb.
The next item, Mr. Brian Daly.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. I bring to you a motion to approve district technology infrastructure upgrade. This upgrade includes new network switches, network cabling, wireless access points, and wireless management controllers for our data center, and battery backups. This will be for all elementary and middle school sites, and our district total out-of-pocket expense will be $283,540.52 with payment from 2009 bond fund. I do want to make two quick points about this upgrade. This total project in the past would have cost our technology bond funds roughly $1.2 million. Up until last year, Broken Arrow Public Schools was not able to receive what's called C2 funding from E-rate. It's a new form of funding that's offered to our district that covers things like wireless access points, network switches, and cabling. Prior to that, we weren't at a high enough free and reduced rate to be able to have that. And you generally saw your poorer school districts around the country receiving those dollars. Now, since everything's moved to the cloud or has to access the internet, they've dumped a few $billion back into E-rate so that school districts our size and at our current free and reduced rate would be able to take advantage of some of these funds. So we applied last year. This was last spring. The board approved those E-rate funds, and we were given those E-rate dollars just a few weeks ago. And the E-rate portion of that reimbursement on that 1.2 million was $767,597. We also had a credit from one of our vendors, which won the E-rate bids last year, peak uptime. The credit was $208,000. So what that credit was, last summer, if you recall, we upgraded the freshman academy and the high school to add wireless access points to all classrooms in preparation for the one-to-one initiative. We funded that with 2009 bond funds while we awaited our E-rate reimbursement. So that $208,000 is us finally getting our reimbursement from the vendor because they received their reimbursement from E-rate. So just to give you an idea, a total project of $1.279 million. We're only responsible for 25% of that. 76% of that was picked up either by vendor credit or from federal E-rate dollars. So
that means we can use other resources for other needs that we may have.
Exactly. This helps us tremendously. As I said in the past, that 1.2 would have come out of technology bond funds. I'm able to use more of those bond funds now for things such as the high school one-to-one and some initiatives at the elementary and middle school level now, since it frees up those bond dollars. This will give, just so you know, this will allow us to, this summer, bring wireless access to every single classroom, every single elementary, every single middle school site, every classroom. We currently have them in our common areas, and we have the last 3-4 years. The wireless technology's changed tremendously since then, and that's the new technology with the AC standards, what we put in our freshman academy and our high school this last summer. So we are going to expand that to, again, all elementary classrooms and all middle school classrooms. At that point, every single site, every single classroom in our district will have Wi-Fi access. This will help us expand our digital initiatives across the district, not just to our high school and freshman academy, and it'll really open up our doors for new instruction.
This is definitely exciting because obviously, you know, we want to get to where we need to be more quickly. This allows us to do that, and so certainly I want to thank you and thank anyone that is responsible for putting together the work that's required to do this. So.
And I want to reiterate, even the out-of-pocket expense from Broken Arrow, that I'm asking you to approve the 283, and these projects going forward, or none of this was out of our general fund budget. It was, again, either E-rate federal dollars, vendor credit, or our 2009 technology bond funds.
Are there any questions? If there are none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the district's technology infrastructure upgrade, which includes network switches, network cabling, wireless access points, wireless management controller, and battery backups for all district elementary and middle school sites with a district total out-of-pocket expense of $283,540.52 with the payment from the 2009 bond fund. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Natalie Ena.
Good evening. You've already heard a comprehensive overview of where we stand as far as the big picture in our budget. This is where the district stands as of the end of February. Our state aid allocation has now been adjusted to $46.7 million. That's an additional $1 million loss from our adjusted midterm allocation in January. Additionally, we received our new FBA allocations today, and that's an additional $426,000 loss from what we received in January. I will be coming back to the board next month with a request for an adjusted revenue projection now that we have those definite figures. As you recall, last month we adjusted several other line items that we had definitively received from the State Department, but FBA was the one allocation that we were waiting on, and so you will receive a request for an adjusted revenue allocation next month. Everything else is pretty much tracking along with where we were last year. We're still kind of catching up in our
Title I claims due to some logistical issues at the State Department with getting our budget requested, but we should start to receive those claims coming in through the rest of the fiscal year. Building fund, not much has changed from where we were last month. Once we receive our big ad valorem allocation in January, that pretty much finishes up our revenue projections in this fund. Child nutrition, we're up in our collections in all categories, which is a good thing. Child nutrition is extremely self-sufficient, and so they pretty much fund all of their programs, salaries, benefits, food expenses. So we're very fortunate that we have such a self-sufficient child nutrition fund, because obviously this saves our general fund from those expenses. Our general fund overall expenditures are cut off this year for district-wide spending was moved up to March 1st, which has come and gone. Typically, April 1st is our spending cutoff, but that was moved up a little bit due to our software conversion. So March 1st was the spending cutoff for general fund expenditures. Now, once we're back up and running with our new accounting system, some activity funds and bond fund expenditures will proceed through the end of the fiscal year, but pretty much we're done with general fund spending. And as you can see, we've been pretty conservative across all major object groups, especially in the areas of staff development, staff travel, registration. The good news is we were already conservative before we found out that we were being cut in that area so significantly, and as we've moved forward, anything that has been approved has gone through an extensive approval process. Building fund, the main goal for building fund this year was to build up our ending fund balance from where we were last year. We had some one-time expenditures in 14-15 that we've been trying to pick up some ground on, so we've been very conservative with our building fund expenditures. Now that we will be receiving both the annual allocations from the remaining portion of 2009 bond funds, as well as our trust funds from the 2015 issue, luckily we'll be able to shift some building fund expenditures to those bond funds where appropriate, so we can continue building up our fund balance and building fund. Child nutrition, everything is pretty much on track with where we need to be. Our food expenditures are still down from where they were last year, and everything else is pretty much on target. The only outlier of an expenditure they had this year was the purchase of their food truck. So that was really the only unusual expenditure that they've had this year. And we're still projecting a $14 million fund balance. We haven't adjusted that, but obviously that will be under a great deal of scrutiny in the next few weeks as we continue to figure out what's happening with our funding.
Okay, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
My next item is requesting an increase in our general fund of $25,610. We received an adjusted allocation for our Johnson O'Malley Indian Education funds based on updated enrollment, so this will just allow me to update their budget.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the request to increase the general fund operating budget by $25,610. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, Ms. Donna Dollahan.
Good evening. I'm here to give the treasurer's report as of the end of February. Excuse me. The cash balances report shows a total of $64,580,000 in assets for the district. Included in this figure are investments that total $49,690,000. Our funds security and deposit report shows a total of $59,097,000 in collateral pledged to Broken Arrow schools. Our deposits that require collateral total $31,561,000, leaving an available balance of collateral to the schools of $27,537,000.
Okay, this is an information item. Are there any questions? Thank you. Just go ahead.
In the activity funds, as of the end of February, the receipts total $4,824,000. Disbursements total $3,702,000, with an ending cash balance in the activity funds of $2,980,000. I would like to point out in your attachment on ESB there was an error. A coding error was discovered for Highland Park and Leisure Park. This was corrected, and a corrected report is in your packet. I would like to give kudos to Susan Doyle, who's the principal secretary at Leisure Park, for being diligent about checking her reports.
All right, this is information as well. So
Thank
are
you.
there any questions?
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Kathy Metavallis.
Good evening. First item tonight is the encumbrance report. We have encumbrances totaling $1,365,300.64 for general building, child nutrition, workers' comp bond, and gift funds for February 10th through March 3rd, and I would request your approval of those.
Okay. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the encumbrance reports for all funds for the 2015-16 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Next item are the change order reports, again for general building, child nutrition, gift, workers' compensation, and bond funds, showing a decrease of $198,929.24, and I would request your approval of those change orders.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the change order reports for general fund, cooperative fund, building fund, workers' compensation, bond funds, gift funds, and child nutrition fund for the 2015-16 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Ed Fager.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. The first item tonight is number 57, which is the second reading, and a motion to approve or disapprove the proposed revisions to board policy number 2180, use of school facilities, found in the community relations section.
And this has been reviewed by legal counsel.
Yes.
All right, and it's an action item, so I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 2180, use of school facilities in Section 2, Community Relations. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
The next item is number 58, which is a motion to approve or disapprove a new board policy number 6155, which has to do with post-issuance compliance procedures for the district's tax-exempt bonds. This policy was recommended by financial counsel to the Tulsa County Authority, Industrial Authority, that's it. And it has been reviewed and amended slightly by our legal counsel.
Okay. If there are questions, certainly I would entertain those. If not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the proposed Board Policy 6155, post-issuance compliance procedures to be included in Section 6, Business and Technology. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Dwayne Thompson.
Okay, as you're aware, a month or so ago, our current auditor or independent auditor informed us because we're a GAP entity that they were no longer going to do our audit, and so we began to look at potential auditors, and just understand that there's only 27 auditing firms in the state that are even allowed to do school district independent audits. And so from that, some are very, very small and only do those in their local community and so forth. So we began to question various groups as to whether or not they would be interested. Some were not interested because we are a gap. And the reason for that is if your sole job is to do audits of school districts and you only have one that is doing it according to GAP, then you're going to have to get up to speed and stay up to speed on the reporting requirements and so forth. And so that's a little bit of a challenge, and some of them an expense that they didn't want to incur. But we did get 2 quotes back, proposals back, and so we are recommending Jenkins and Kemper tonight. So their office is in Bixby. They do Bixby schools. They also last year Midwest City Del City is a GAP school, but they don't have staff to be able to make the adjusting entries. So Jay's firm did the adjusting entries for the district, and then a separate firm did the audit. And so he is familiar with the actual transactions that we go through, and so we're excited about that opportunity. We did have another one, a local firm submit that's on the list, and so at this point we're recommending to go with Jenkins Kemper. The total amount is $29,600, which is very comparable to what we were paying to Sanders, Bledsoe, and Hewitt. And obviously this is just for the 1 year, so if there was an issue or something we wanted to change, we could move forward and change in the future. There is legislation forcing districts to change every 5 years regardless, and so that will potentially make it into statute as it's still alive. But at this point, you can choose when you choose to do that. As I always do, in full disclosure, just like Jeff was, when I worked at Steve Sanders, I worked with Jeff. I also worked with Jay, so I do know, man, he's very comparable to the service that Jeff provided for us. So I would answer any questions that you have, and
Okay, if there are questions, certainly move forward with those, but if not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the new agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Jenkins and Kemper Certified Public Accountants for the 2015-16 fiscal year audit for the State Department of Education. Total cost to the district is not to exceed $29,600. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item is new business. Seeing that we do not have any new business, we'll move to the next item, which is the executive session.
Make a motion to move to executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move into executive session pursuant to Oklahoma Statute Title 25, Section 307B3 of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act to discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property pursuant to Oklahoma Statute Title 25, Section 307B1 and 7 of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act to discuss the 2015-16 fiscal year evaluation of the superintendent. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Have a good evening.